Lock flows are a great way to train a high volume of different wrist or arm locks, elbow locks, any kind of lock. Obviously, keep you down on the ground. We've got great flows for down there too. Not because an altercation is going to go this way, though it might, because there is definitely an educated reason of why these locks chain together. But if nothing else, it's a really good way, again, to get a high volume of repetition. And for us, that's what we're after. I want to be able to develop the sensitivity that when he grabs me, this just kind of goes, right? When he grabs me, this just sort of goes. And there's other things that are gonna need to eventually come along with that, right? We're gonna need to address things like tranquilizers where we're hitting or we're stomping so that we can start to put these things in. That's very much a part of the art, but a good place to start is just by getting comfortable developing a flow back and forth of how one motion feeds itself into the next. That's quite an education in the total perspective of martial artistry. So we'll start with the basic wrist grab. All right, he's grabbing almost like we're shaking hands, but instead he's grabbed my wrist. I want to bring this up so that my hand can clasp on top of his like this. I'm not this way. I'm here with my fingers pointing in the direction of his thumb and the heel of my palm wedged on the bottom of the pinky side of his hand, 1 and 2. When I bring this full circle, the fact that I've captured this has caused his wrist to bend into something kind of like a Z shape this way. 1, like that, okay? Now there's several ways. Can you turn towards the camera for me? Thank you, sir. Several ways you can put this on. Some schools will teach you to grab the wrist back. So you want to shove the blade of your hand right into the crook of the wrist. Not out here, right in tight. Grasp and twist, okay? Some groups will tell you that you want to secure this tight and point your fingers at them and carve the point of your fingers down that way, okay? Again, if we're on this side, he's grabbed me. I set this in place, lift this up, and get the bend in his wrist. If you can't get it, pump it like that. Then it'll loosen up for you. Put your blade of your hand right tight in the crook of the wrist, grab back, and you're gonna twist. One teacher that I had would teach us to put elbow to elbow like this. When I was doing Aikido, we would do this. So we would make contact on both sides. And the way he described this was, it's like a toilet paper roll, which I think is kind of funny, but it's always stuck with me. I was 14 years old when I heard that. It's always stuck with me. So we've got one bracket on this side and one bracket on this side. When you turn a toilet paper roll, the whole thing doesn't fall off the wall. They don't all move. Just the roll moves. So our arms here are the brackets, and I just move the roll like that. Second way is, again, we grab, I bring this up. If it's stuck, pump it like that. As I point this here, still very tight in the crook of the wrist, and let that lever down. You're going to be getting all of this feedback through the tension, the tightness of the connective tissues here in the wrist. They're forced to go in a direction and cram into a pocket that they're not able to go. And all the little bones in the wrist are getting crammed into corners as well. Part 3, whenever you go to put a lock on, if you guys are comfortable with it, get used to slapping this on a little bit like that. This is like how you box out. It's got a little something behind it so that I'm grabbing. That's just a good habit to get into for any kind of locking. If you've ever worked a door, bouncing or something, you're already familiar with how important that part is. You can't just place your hand here. When if he's grabbed me, he's already up to something. So he's got something in mind. Nobody just comes up and grabs you and goes, hey man, But when he grabs me here, he's up to something. So I'm not gonna be able to just place my hand on top and secure a lock. When he grabs, I have to grab him back. So to do that, you've gotta really get this on here and grab it like that. It's not about hitting the hand. Those are options too. But this is, if I'm gonna grab, I can't place and wrap. I have to grab this thing that way and then put this in and go. From this point, lock number 2, having gone into this cross wrist grab, he may be inclined to push his way forward and out of it, right? So that's why I say there is an educated reason why we go from one to the other. Sometimes he pushes out, sometimes he pulls out this way, but he's trying to get away from that pain. And when he does, we let him and we go with it. So you're yielding to the other person as opposed to forcing them into a new position, and you're dictating where it is that they go. This is why you want to think in terms of, you don't want to get a lock and then take the gas off and show them the next lock you learned in martial art class, and then show him the next one. If you get the one, put that lock on, and when he drops to his knees, knee him in the face, elbow him in the teeth, and move on to the next guy. But the nature of the flow is that they're not just gonna stay there. He's gonna pull his hand back. So when he does, chase it, okay? So we have classic outside wrist lock for this reason. For this lock, if this is new to you, grab the pad of the thumb, not like this, the whole hand should be on here like that. I'm gripping this way tight with the whole meat of my hand against the whole meat of this half of his. The pad of the thumb is this section. That's what I grab. This side, I'm on here and I grab as well. Again, if you could see on top, there's no gap between my hand and his. There's no space where we could put something in there. This is in tight. One method will be to put your thumbs on their knuckle line. I twist out and down, so he starts to go. Or you twist out and back, he starts to go. One method will be to put your palm, so you still have the thumb here, but you put the palm on the back of the hand, just below the knuckle line, that way. Some groups will go into the forearm, which I quite like because it puts these shots here. Meaning I've gone from the cross wrist grab, and when he pulls, I roll with him and just let the forearm stay connected. This is great because you can drop him right to the floor this way, right? And now you're in position for any kind of follow-up. So we had 1, we had 2, which could be any number of positions, even up to and including punching like you would do for a disarm. 3 is he doesn't like to feel this, so he's gonna push it towards me. And as he does, I'm gonna let that ride out. I'm gonna play it out, right? He's pushing it towards me, so I yield to that. Bring it this direction. This hand is gonna come on top to the other side and turn it palm facing him. His elbow is up, his fingertips are up, his palm is facing his shoulder. Same thing, I've got the grip on the meat of the thumb, the other grip on the pad on the pinky side of the hand, and I'm flexing just below his knuckles, now in the direction of his head and shoulder. Sometimes you're taught when you're in this position to check the body or the legs with some sort of kick that way. We started here, we had 1, we had 2, he pushes and I come out. A lot of times his counter will simply be to bend his arm and tackle me like this, right? So to remove some of those opportunities for at least a beat, you're taught to put some sort of checking kick in. That's what buys you enough time to put this lock on. Part 2 of lock number 3. When you move this around, right now let's call this 12 o'clock and this 6. I gather it up past 6 o'clock. I bring this around and reach over top. In effect, I'm passing it right around 9 o'clock to my other hand. Then I use this hand to turn it over. See how this has not disconnected? And it grabs and I secure. My pinkies are in the crook of his wrist. Right here, my pinkies in the crook of the wrist. So that means 1, 2. When we go for 3, I've got control this whole time. There's pressure on it the whole time. Can you feel that, Keith?
Yep.
Right, again, once I start, there's pressure. There's pressure, even if I kick, right? I'm maintaining some of that intention through the locks the whole time. So number 4, if you're getting access to this whole flow, will be simply to take 2 fingers. You could use something else, but I think a good starting point is these 2 fingers this way, and just pop the inside of the elbow. You just want the elbow to bend. And as you bend it, let your hand punch underneath like you're gonna uppercut him from under his armpit. The flexion and control that I have with the thumb side, that's my left hand, the thumb side of this grip, I keep that the whole time. So that when this comes in, you see his shape move, his fingertips are towards him, and this comes right up. What I like to add to this is to punch this so that it tucks in next to my ribs. One way would have been to be here, there's flexion. And if I needed to use this to actually control him, I'd put this right behind his jaw, the pad of my hand, so that he's forced to look away, and that adds extra pressure to this lock. It also allows me to control him as he's escorted out of the room. But sometimes this gets kind of loose and squirrely and you lose your grip because of it. So my personal preference is when I'm here, I lost my grip a little bit, this is the problem, is I'm gonna punch this in between us so it's tucked in against my ribs. I'm actually using my elbow inside to pinch this a little bit against my body, but the forward pressure means that's very easy to do. Then I put this here. Now he's really locked up in there, right? This is 1, but that's better. Yeah, look at that. I barely even started moving and the lock is on. And that's why when we open the door with his head. So that's wrist lock number one. Clasp that on top, turn it over, make contact with that elbow. If you find that helps you secure this position, grab, twist. Remember your toilet paper, or here like this. Pump it if you need to, point the hand, and carve that down. Lock two. If you learn to go from lock one into lock two, as we brought this around, semicircle out from 6, around through 3, through 12 to about the 11, and we secure the lock here, or here, or here, and it could go all the way to the ground. If you do this fast and hard enough, don't do this to your partners. But in arts like Aikido, they come here and your feet come right up over your head. If you do that, you're on your own. None of that is my responsibility. Lock 3 meant you learned to go from here to here, and since he's gonna push away, you bring it around like this. Secure the grip on both sides of the hands, nice and tight, no gaps. Pressure through my thumbs, through his knuckle line, in the direction of his shoulder and his head, not any other direction for right now. And if I need to check to keep him there and pull this a little bit, that's a good idea too. And the final lock, if you've got the whole flow for today, is from here. Secure the thumb by bringing your thumb into the webbing of his. Maintain your grip on the pad of the thumb. Keep that pressure through the knuckle lines and don't let it go away. Use these 2 fingers to pop the elbow up as you uppercut underneath. The elbow might be in front of your body. Push behind the mandible, make him look away, walk in the direction that you're pointing his face. Or for extra assurance, punch this in between your body. Get some pinning nature here between the two of us. Again, control. And if I need to escort him out the room, I move him in the direction that I'm pushing. I don't want to push one way and step another way. I'm going to lose all of it. I move him in the direction that I'm pushing. This is specifically why if I need to move him here or use him as a shield for somebody over there, I learn to move and push. So now he's between me and any potential threat, and I can go right out the door, boom, head first, and say, that's enough for you, Keith. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, right? So that's a basic 1, 2, 3, 4-part wrist lock series. Yeah, there's 4 of them. There's all different variations on this theme and really long lock flows that we're going to extrapolate out from here. But for right now, this is a really great place to get you started. Remember, if you're training this with a partner, which with wrist locks, you could do this kind of stuff on your own. But make sure you tap early, tap often, be nice to each other's joints. If you're interested in trying to figure out how to train these as flows that you do on your own, and if you try that, then go and look at traditional forms from Chinese martial arts or jurus from Silat and start to realize, oh, that's what they're working in a lot of these circular motions like that is actually the locking, but it's done as a solo form. Here, we're just getting into it with a partner straight away.